It's December already? Which means another year is just around the corner. But what makes December feel so special? Christmas isn't a season, but a feeling. It's different for everyone. Is it the Christmas gifts? The long-awaited meeting with family and friends? Is it the entire Christmas celebration? Going in malls or convenience stores that you see all the time suddenly have changed in music and decorations. Seeing new window displays in local stores. Hearing children sing Christmas songs around the neighborhood. Or finally, letting yourself go and stop being busy with work. And instead, sitting down with family and busy spending time with them. In this video, you will walk away with principles on the spirit of Christmas through the inspired story of the World War I truce. Hold on to your hot chocolate and let's untap into your potential. Welcome to Untapping Your Potential, where we will share with you motivational stories, motivational figures, comeback stories, and public speaking tips that will keep you growing and inspire you to take action. During the First World War, nations would go to war if the benefit of war are deemed to outweigh the disadvantages, and if there is a sense that there is no other mutual agreeable solution. People with bigger positions play doll with the lives of people under them. The soldiers suffer the most with extreme violence, destruction, and mortality is thrown out the window for a fellow man. During a time when the autumn battles had passed, as the war went on, both sides of the war were experiencing a common enemy, the weather. The high water table at Flanders meant that the trenches were always filled with water. Soldiers leaned against the walls to sleep, trying to keep themselves out of the wet. Weeks of rain flooded the dugouts and men were pulled down by the mud like quicksand. Morale and motivation were at an all-time low. As if that wasn't enough, many men were also experiencing their first holiday away from home. Knowing this would be difficult, commanders brought Christmas gifts to the soldiers. There were presents brought to the fields. Each German man received a gift from the Kaiser: cigar boxes, pipes with the crown prince on it. For the British, Princess Mary has sent them brass boxes with cigarettes, tobaccos, Christmas cards, sweets, chocolates. Personal packages weren't forgotten as well. British soldiers received plum pudding and 1,000-count boxes of cigarettes. German and Austrian troops were bombarded with chocolate, salami, and cognac. Both sides received winter clothing. Believe it or not, the best gift of all was the fact that the rain stopped and the trenches drained. That afternoon, the gunfire dwindled, and in some sectors, it stopped entirely. The weather was so nice. The Germans stuffed themselves with chocolate and sang. They were in such a cheerful mood to the point where they placed lit Tannenbaum on the trench parapets. Over on the British side, watchmen on the Scots Guard saw lines of light along the enemy trench. They were getting ready for a new wave of attack. They were suspecting that something was up. However, nothing came. They just heard singing. The singing was the original Austrian version of Silent Night. Sensing the challenge, Officer Lieutenant Sir Edward Holst decided they should drown this out with their own carol. The sides went back and forth, but soon the competition merged into a harmony. One side started shouting Christmas greetings at first as a joke, but soon everyone got daring. A few even stepped out to talk. Agreements formed. In some sectors, the officers met at the wire and shook hands, agreeing to cease hostilities the next day. However, in most sectors, the ceasefire was held. This truce mostly happened between German and British units. In other areas, the ranks took the lead, Germans shouting across no man's land, English, tomorrow if you no shoot, we no shoot. There were agreements to bury the dead and cease hostilities. Some exchanged cigars and cigarettes to smoke together on the German parapet. Both sides, even the French and Belgians, halted fighting long enough for a guest, a soloist from the Paris Opera, to make a performance. Some during the day played football, where the Germans claimed they beat the British 3-2. This was truly a sight to see during Christmas Eve, 1914. That Christmas night, the troops slept in sublime quiet. The next morning, the British troops were anxious. They didn't know if the festive move from yesterday would still happen. Imagine their surprise when they saw the Germans walking around on their parapets. Such a thing was risky in the daylight. That gesture of trust, more than anything, lured a few British out. Some had ventured into no man's land on Christmas Eve. In daylight, it was impossible to ignore the bodies lying between the trenches. The two sides buried their dead in common graves, grieving side by side in joint services, listening to a faraway sound of battle from other sectors. Their shared experiences broke down the wall, and this would be the first time they see the enemy team as humans. They took this opportunity to exchange gifts. Private Henry Williamson, an English writer who witnessed the Christmas Truce and the devastation of trench warfare, once wrote a letter from the trenches saying, "I am writing from the trenches. In my mouth is a pipe presented by the Princess Mary. And the pipe is tobacco." Of course, you say, but wait. And the pipe is German tobacco from a German shoulder. Yes, a live German soldier from his own trench. On Christmas Eve, both armies sang carols and cheered, and there were very little firing. The Germans called to our men to come and fetch a cigar, and our men told them to come to us. This went on for some time until the bold Tommy crept out and stood between the trenches, and the Saxon came to meet him. They shook hands and laughed. Thus, the ice was broken. Our men are speaking to them now. They lived in the same fields under the same rain, and were equally sick of war. Besides, they were curious. What was life like on the other side? Who were these enemies? Both sides were confused as to the motivation of the other party. One British officer was perplexed to learn that this new German friend believed they fought for freedom. And his German friend was confused because they didn't know the British were also fighting for freedom. Amid this, Lieutenant Holst found himself talking to Lieutenant Thomas of the 15th Westphalians. Lieutenant Thomas has something to pass on: a Victoria Cross and a packet of letters. An English officer had died in a German trench during the last attack. Perhaps he could give these to the man's family. Touched, Holst removed his own silk scarf, a gift from home, and presented in thanks. Thomas gave him fur gloves, the one his family gave him in return. The Christmas truce had happened, an unofficial and impromptu ceasefire that occurred along the Western Front during World War I. In days like these, you really want to just count your blessings. True friends are hard to find. Nothing like this Christmas truce would happen again. Most of the generals were not having any of it. Machinery of warfare eventually rolled over the human connections of the frontline troops. In few places, troops resisted until New Year's Eve. Men who tried to form a truce were court-martialed. Machine guns drowned out carols. Indeed, many of them who celebrated in no man's land that day would never see another Christmas. But the friendships made during the time of the truce were definitely not forgotten. True friends aren't the ones who make your problems disappear. They're the ones who won't disappear when you're facing problems. Despite the fact that they were fighting against each other, they were able to create friendships and connections in the small moment of quiet. A sense of camaraderie that they were not alone in fighting this war. They were facing tomorrow together. And their favorite one said, "Christmas isn't a season, but a feeling." There's just something about the season that makes a day a bit better than yesterday. The sense of nostalgia controls us into wanting a day that just screams Christmas miracle. Christmas means many different things to people. Some see it as a time for shopping and gift giving. Others see it as a time for family gatherings and plenty of good food. For some people, the decorations, the music, and special program celebrations are the best things about the season of the year. Either way, all of these are different forms of giving and bonding with others. setting aside all your worries in order to show and receive the best expression of love and care for and from others. The Christmas season provides us with wonderful opportunities to use our individual gifts, time, talents, and resources to reach out to share the love we have for each other. That's why whenever we see December on our calendars, we know what time it is. Merry Christmas, everyone. May the miracle of Christmas fill your heart with joy. Thanks for watching this video. How would you like to hear more motivational stories on a consistent basis? Do me a favor and support the channel by sharing, commenting below, and please make sure to like and hit that subscribe button to get the latest updates. Soon, you will be on your way to feeling inspired.